I truly believe managing the supply chain of this organization, Bill manages the heartbeat of our organization. And so it is my great honor to introduce the Senior Vice President of Supply Chain, Bill Ross.
Okay. I assume everybody can hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the opportunity to coach Jennifer a lot. It's like, stop giggling, stop disrupting everybody.
Or to disrupt.
Don't you have a job to do? So what I wanted to talk about today is just briefly around the role that I play and the team that I have plays within Ingram. But also want to talk about, because of Toastmasters, the things that I've learned, through my career relative to how to present, how to think about presenting, tricks of the trade, and then also how communication plays into leadership. Okay? And what am I doing here? Am I just...
Yeah, we wanted to force you to stay there.
Yeah.
You have to click. I can click for you. The arrow also.
All right.
There.
Ingram Micro Operations. So it covers warehouse transportation, engineering, process and trade compliance, as well as account management and sales support and enablement. So under warehousing, it's all lines of business in the US. So we have obviously the Ingram core business. We have CFS, which is our 3PL business. We have mobility business, as well as returns, refurbishment. We run config, and we also have dedicated outsourced buildings for like Walmart, T-Mobile's coming up, AT&T. So it cuts across all of that. In addition, outside of the US, under my team, we have Costa Rica, which is a mobility return repair center, as well as Puerto Rico. We service, B2C, e-com, B2B, business to business. We also do omni-channel, which, companies like Best Buy, we're servicing their stores, their customers, and other lines of business. Obviously, export and import, making sure that everything's coming in, or all the documentation is correct to get through customs. We're paying the tariffs and everything else, as well as export. The team that rolls up under my group also looks at export, making sure that we're not shipping to the wrong people, the wrong countries. And they also look at that globally, because the trade compliance group represents Ingram Micro, not just Ingram Micro US, because it's one company under one banner. So if we have Australia exporting things to other countries they shouldn't be, Ingram Micro is liable. So the trade compliance group oversees the entire globe. And they work closely, within country, outside of country, as well as the legal group. Also ISO compliance, we're 14,000, 9001, which is process compliance, metric related compliance, as well as environmental. Under transportation, it's getting stuff in and getting stuff out, but also things around making sure that, direct ship. So if we're ordering from a vendor that's shipping directly to a customer, that we're doing that efficiently. Also behind all of that is all of the other functions that everybody else here plays. You have a financial function, making sure we're paying carriers, making sure they're performing, doing address validations, claims management. It's a business within a business. As well as the procurement side. So if we have a customer that comes to us and it's new business and they require, white glove service, where you want a big screen TV delivered to your house and put on the wall, right? We have a group of people that go and procure that service. The engineering, obviously, we're operations, so a high focus on lean, taking out waste, doing things more efficiently and continuous improvement. We also look at business solutioning. that's both for our 3PL business, but also within Ingram Micro. So if we bring on, different categories or different services, we work with, whether it's the sales team on any line of business to make sure that we have an operational solution that services the customer and the need. We have infrastructure people, we have a lot of buildings, a lot of equipment, a lot of conveyor, and a lot of technology. So we have a group that focuses solely on that, as well as we support the pricing for all new business, driving implementations, as well as transformation. So as we evolve, we have to get better at what we do. The biggest paradigm shift that Ingram's going through is, even though Ingram Micro Core is business to business, it's a distribution model. But today what's going on is, instead of shipping product from our warehouse to our customer's warehouse, we're shipping more and more of our orders directly to our customer's customer. And that's a completely different model, because in a distribution model, if you shipped late to Best Buy, or you shipped the wrong product, or something was damaged, or there was a misship, you never impacted the end user, right? Because if Best Buy ordered 1,000 laptops and it shipped a day late, odds are they had inventory in stock where they can continue to support the customer. Or if we shipped 1,000 but 10 were damaged, they didn't pay for it. If we overshipped, they kept it, right? But today, more and more of our business is going directly to the end user. And the reason that's happening is, as retail dies, right, people are buying less product. Retail carries about 12 times the inventory as e-com. So, it all comes down to how much does it cost to buy product. And it's pretty straightforward. The more you buy, the cheaper it is. So as retailers are dying and people are moving to e-com, their costs are going up because they're buying less, which then has them come to us because we have this enormous purchase power, right? We're the largest customer, or in the top 5 customers of every major technology vendor, Microsoft, Lenovo, on and on and on. And because we can procure so much inventory, we can drive the cost down. As people like traditional retailers are dying on the vine, Staples, Best Buy, you can go through the list. Their inventory purchases are going down, their costs are coming up, they're buying from us. But then they step back and they go, well, how do I continue to grow my online assortment? Everybody wants to be the Amazon, right? So how do I be that one place to shop for everything? What ends up happening is they can't stock everything, right? And because one, it costs them too much. The second is the infrastructure costs are too high, right? So what the best of the best omni-channel resellers, these are people that are selling e-com, retail, and B2B, they're sending us their e-com orders, right? And that's a major shift in the way that we do business, because now every order is important. Where in the past, ship 1,000 laptops, it ships a day late, not a problem, right? Now it's 1,000 orders going to 1,000 different customers. Today we're the brand behind the brand of most major Fortune 500 companies that are selling technology. And it's been a huge challenge for us because it's a major paradigm shift. Because the old scenario is to be, if the order came in by 5, it would ship today, right? And we're like 99.999% on time.
That's correct.
Now it's, the order comes in by 5, it has to be on the truck at 6 o'clock to make the service commitment that our customer made to their customer. So things are really compressing. And it's a totally different operating paradigm today. Obviously, I talked about ISO and trade compliance. We have an account management team that works specifically with our 3PL customers. So Google, Walmart, Sonos, where we're integrated into their supply chain, and we have to stay lockstep, right? So as Google's moving to same-day delivery in every urban market, we have to understand how they're going to do that and what's our role, right? Also, we work closely with the BU leaders within an Ingram micro. So, like Ryan Grant's team, around configuration. We're building a config center in Mira Loma. What are we doing around Samsung? And when we do a forward purchase or a pre-buy, how's that inventory going to move? Where is it going to go? What do the returns look like? What are the return rights? So we're kind of integrated in everything. And obviously, our job is to support sales. Whether that's the 3PL sales, whether that's product sales, business sales, services, soup to nuts. When you look at the supply chain, there's multiple threads that come in. So everything starts with either a product, an order, or a demand signal. And from that, then we look at the order and the value-added services. So the order could be a purchase order of product coming in. When does it need to be in the building? Who the carrier is? What's the intent of it? Are we out of stock on it? What's the sense of urgency? Value-added services. Does it need to be kitted? Is it a component that goes into something? So we take that as an input. We then look at what are the customer or the vendor SLAs, service level agreements. So the customer placed an order, it needs to be on their front step at this time of the day, right? Because what's starting to happen, obviously you have this huge consumer group that is living under the Amazon experience. But we also have this huge growing segment of customers, our resellers, that used to have warehouses. They can't afford warehouses anymore because they can't afford the working capital of having a warehouse with product in it. So we're seeing a company that comes in and installs cameras in your house. You go back a couple years ago, we would ship everything to their warehouse or their shop. Now we're shipping it directly to your house so that when you come to install it, it's there, right? So we're at that level of execution because that's how we're enabling growth. We also look at inventory visibility. Where is the inventory at? Not only coming to us, because we pay for inventory when it leaves our vendor's dock. If it takes 15 days to get to us, that's 15 days of working capital that we can't harness, right? So we're looking at where is the inventory at? Is it coming in? Is it in the building? Is it in that building? Is it consigned inventory? Does it need to convert to a kit? Because our biggest liability, and it's also our biggest asset, is inventory, right? So driving inventory productivity is the biggest key to our profitability. Because we operate on very slim margins. Because our model is very simple. We buy product, everybody pays $100, but based off of the volumes we buy, we get back-end dollars. Programs, rebates, and discounts. Programs are marketing dollars predominantly. If you're a retailer, it pays for store signage, it pays for putting it on the shelf, it pays for couponing. If you're an e-com company, it pays for digital content, where you banner ads and where you fall in the search engine. Rebates, pretty simple, buy more, save more, right? And discounts are typically, forward buy discounts or pre-market discounts. So it's not uncommon for HP, they're having a tough quarter. They come to us and they say, can you buy next month's inventory now, right? And we say, we look at, working capital, how long is it gonna take to bleed off? And then you also have the other side where companies say, we're gonna introduce a new product in 6 months, and if you commit to buying $10 million now, we'll give you these discounts. What everybody's doing is they're looking at, everybody pays $100, but based off of Ingram Micro's volumes, that product cost us net landed maybe $90. Best Buy, Amazon, Staples, where I came from, based off of the purchase volumes there, their net landed cost may be 97. We're at 90, they're at 97. They come to us and say, what can you sell it for? To us. And in a lot of cases, we can beat the vendor. Because the vendors really don't want to deal with this nickel dime stuff, right? They'd rather handle truckload volumes or palletized volumes because it's cheaper for them. Because they really don't have the network to support it either. Most of them are manufacturers. They don't have a e-com channel. They don't have a logistics channel that can support smaller shipments. So they'd rather push it to us, because their supply chain becomes more efficient. So that's when we look at it and go, oh, the customer, if they bought it, it would be 97, it cost us 90, we can sell it for 95, right? That's why we make pennies on a dollar, right? But the key is it's inventory. And we have to make sure that the inventory is productive, because when you're operating on such slim margins, if you make bad inventory decisions, you piss that away really, really quick. Obviously, we then look at transportation. What does the customer want? When do they want it? How do they want it delivered, serviced, and everything else? And then finally, we look at the network and the IS solutions, because we're working across multiple, obviously, warehouses, right? We have mobility warehouses, return warehouses, repair warehouses. We have warehouses that do key injection for point of sale. We have facilities that flash phones, Polycom, provisioning. We have kitting facilities. So, and they all operate on different systems. So, how do we, take a customer in and migrate not only through different ERPs, because we're supporting Impulse, SAP, Lite, Evolve, plus a bunch of other things. And basically, our job is to take all of this, ravel it all together, and delight our customers at the lowest possible cost, right? What I should show is I could probably take this away and just put up a sausage machine, right? Right? You put all the ingredients in.
I call it the pulse, you call it sausage?
We make sausage. So that's what our team does. I have a fantastic team. So really what I wanted to talk about, which, being Toastmasters holders, that's funny.
We hold the power.
Obviously. I was just amazed with how structured. It's like people had, the person bringing napkins was assigned a napkin.
Yeah.
I applied that.
I'm A-type person.
Being an ops guy, I'm like, that's awesome. So what I wanted to talk about is how do I think and go about presenting? And the things that I consider first and foremost is what's the intent of the presentation that I'm making? And with that I look at, and we'll talk about it in the next couple slides, enlistment, impact, call to action, or empowerment. Either you're trying to enlist support, or you're trying to get buy-in. You're trying to get somebody to buy something, right? It could be also you're enlisting people to give them awareness. The second one would be impact or call to action. So that's where it's like, we need to do this. You're trying to drive an outcome. It's less about enlistment, it's about driving an outcome. And the third one is empowerment, where you're trying to pass on information to empower people to do things differently. And they're all different styles. The other thing I think about is audience and location. And the reason why that's important is, in my role, I go from being in a warehouse on third shift, in a pick module, talking to Susie about why it's important to scan a serial number, right? Or it could be, meeting with the head of supply chain for Sonos. And also, what's the location? Am I sitting in a conference room? Am I in front of people? Am I on stage? Because those are also, they come into play in terms of content and approach. Then you get into the content, right? So you know what you're trying to get done, you know who you're talking to, you know where it's at, then you have to think about the content. And the one thing I can tell you is, if you're presenting up, if you're lucky to get past 3 slides, you're lucky, right? So, always think about what if. So, like when I get caught up into the boardroom, I think, okay, I have 5 slides, this is what I need to do. And then I look at it and go, my most important point is on my 5th slide, oh shit. Because the likelihood of me getting to the 5th slide is slim to none, right? So always think about where do you want to make your point, and leave yourself that time. Dress. Like, people don't think about this. I've had a lot of snafus in my time. One time I wasn't told that it was green screen, and I wore a solid blue shirt. It was a problem. I remember one time early in my career, I had to be on stage and there were a bunch of lights. And I didn't have any money, but I had to go buy a suit and a tie. And I remember, I still have this tie. It was a Jeffrey Bean tie, right? That I did buy at the outlet. But it was blue and it had like kind of glittery, right? And when I was on the stage, all you could see is the glitter, right? I'm like, okay. But it's also important, again, because, being in operations, if I'm standing in front of, doing an all-hands meeting in front of the warehouse and I have a suit on, it's like they're looking at me going, you really don't belong here, right? And likewise, if you're with a customer, what's their dress code? But also, people do judge, right? If you have a jacket on, they think you're you're there for a reason, you're high up, and that comes into play both positive and negative. And then the final piece is the delivery. So those are the things I think about. And things that I've learned: touch, turn, talk. So when you're presenting, every one of you are doing 3 things. You're reading a slide, you're observing everything going on in the room, and you're listening to me. And by thinking about touch, turn, talk, you call attention to what am I talking about. And so you look, you read, and now I have you back. Nothing is worse than the person that stands and reads a friggin' slide, right? And it also goes into the dress,
Yeah.
right? If I was at a conference not too long ago where the person on the stage had a pair of jeans on, and they had, I don't know what kind they are, but they had the horseshoe on the back. And they were glitter, like sequin. And the person kept walking back and forth, and every time he walked away from me, I didn't listen to him, I looked at his butt. You have to think about, what you're doing and whether you're distracting people. Like, do you want them to listen to you? Do you want them to read, or do you want them to observe what you're doing? Work the room, move with a purpose and eye contact, right? And it doesn't mean just like look over everybody's head. You're doing that to make sure that you're engaging the group. And you're making eye contact to force people to make eye contact and pay attention, right? And again, avoiding distractions, happy feet, clothing. When you have people up that are fidgeting, you're not listening, you're not reading, you're observing. And you lose people. Read the audience, keep track of time, very, very important. Be prepared, not over-practiced. I'm a big believer in having your slide be your menu. It shouldn't be the presentation. Because if you can present it, in a PowerPoint, just send it out, let everybody read it, and send an email and say, do you have any questions? Right? Because you could fill in more than you can put on a slide. And then also, sometimes people get into over-practicing and something happens. And they just go, oh crap, like where was I, right? So to keep the flow. I always try to end with Q&A. And the reason being is, I always think about why am I presenting? And I use Q&A to see if I got what I wanted, right? And it also gives you an opportunity to interact. This is big. Repeat questions that are asked and be deliberate when responding. So somebody over here asks a question. For me personally, I'm going to walk towards you because I want you to feel like you're being heard. And then I'm going to repeat the question so that everybody else understands what they asked. But I'm also repeating the question to buy time. Right? Because I'm going to repeat your question, and then I'm going to read the room to see, is that a question a lot of people want answered? Because if he asks a question and you perk up, right? I've already covered him because I've engaged him, made eye contact, and repeated the question. You're interested in the answer, so I may slide over this way and make eye contact with you and then tell the answer, right? Because you're trying to engage the room. And if it's not important, you'll see real quick, right? It's like, I had somebody ask me recently about, I'm getting ready to be pointed out on attendance polls, right? And, what are you going to do about that, Mr. Ross? And I look at the room and they're like, that guy never comes to work, right? And I'm like, let's take that offline, right? Because, you want to engage that room. The biggest thing is effective communication can drive positive change. Bad communication does the reverse. And when I think about communication, and this is the most important thing I've learned in my career. And it's about 20 years ago. As a manager, how do you lead? And when I think about leadership and management, is on the y-axis it's return, and and obviously it's going up. The return could be a financial return. It could be a quality of life return. right? It could be promotional opportunities, better service and quality. And then the bottom, to me, it's really about assets. It could be people. People are, our single biggest asset. It could be financial investment. It could be warehouse size, right? It could be anything. But I tend to think of it as people because as a manager, my job is to support the management team that works for me. And as I think about hitting the right button, the first step, part of being a manager, is enlistment. And we're not running an army where people sign up and it's like, yep, I'm going to move boxes, right? Everybody here has a choice whether you come to work or not. And as managers and leaders, our role is to drive enlistment, to drive trust, to drive buy-in. And, because we're driving a big organization, but it's really a pyramid, right? I'm only as good or effective or ineffective as the layer below me. It's the whole Fabergé thing, right? And when you think about enlistment, it's really about the environment and the environment you create and the values you portray and what you say is going to be acceptable or not. Before you can start driving change, you have to get economy of scale. So on a warehousing side, I was recently in Millington, which is one of our underperforming buildings. The associates there aren't doing their job. But I can't walk in and go, you guys need to do a better job, right? But what I can say is, things here need to change, right? We need to do a better job. And I personally can help with that. But first and foremost, let's fix the environment. So we painted the building. Like, I was appalled. Half of the toilets didn't flush, right? You couldn't walk through the warehouse without tripping over trash. So you start doing those things and changing the environment, then people start going, wait a second, it's different, right? And likewise, you're also evaluating the management team. Are they supporting open door policy? Are they engaging their team? Are they driving enlistment, or are they de-enlisting their people, right? It's like, oh, don't pay attention to him, he's not gonna last. Let's just stay over here and we'll wait it out, right? That doesn't work. Because the next piece is impact. And this is where you start getting economies of scale of people that are buying in. And then this is where you start seeing improvement. But to get to improvement, you're really talking about changing people's behaviors, right? So when you think about the example I just gave you for Millington, I could go there today and say, stop putting trash on the floor. But it's like if the management team walked over it every day, it's like, why is that okay, right? And if it's okay to have damaged product all over the building, they probably think it's okay to ship damaged product. And so you can't, if you immediately go to try to change behaviors, you're going to lose people, right? And also with behaviors, going through the kind of enlistment phase, you're listening, you're trying to figure out where the quick wins are. What are the things I can do and deliver on, right? I'll give you an example. Like, Kristen has a really tough job. She doesn't have enough people. She comes to me, she's like, I need people. I'm like, okay, I'll get you your people, right? She's like, but I thought you weren't gonna give me my people. I'm like, well, why wouldn't I give you your people, right? Because I have to support her. Now, then it evolves to trying to drive behaviors. Behaviors have to be based on metrics, KPI. You have to be able to measure it. Because people that you think are behaving well may not be, right? Because how many times in your careers, have you got a new manager and it's like, oh, finally they're going to address this person. And then it doesn't happen. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, things are the same, right? Things will never change here, right? But when you start measuring things, you can move forward. And then finally, the last piece is enlistment. And enlistment is, you have people on board, you're driving behavioral changes, and now you can start driving empowerment. And empowerment is not necessarily just, doing more with less people. It's also about driving process improvement. Because if people are on board, people are doing the right things every day, then you can build on that and drive process improvement. And as you're thinking about, when you present, on the enlistment side, I tend to get very close to the people I'm talking to, right? On the behavior side, it's a little bit more command and control, right? This is what I need and why. And then on the empowerment side, it's a lot of rewards and recognition and celebrating the things that people are doing well. So I am getting the...
Thank you, Bill.
Can I get one question?
You can.
Right.
Okay, one question. And we can actually give a prize.
Oh, all right. If that's what it takes.
Go ahead. Is that because we're giving a prize? Come on.
I don't want the prize. I want to tell a quick Bill Ross story that adds to what you said. 2014, Bill Ross came to Ingram Micro. I didn't know him from scratch. Never met him before. We were launching the Dell EMC business, and lots of people in this room are, well aware of all the fun we had, including some that I'm looking at right now. We had a giant presentation where I was bringing the Dell people here to show them how screwed up they were in our warehouse, and I needed to take them to Mira Loma and put them on the dock. Bill was here less than 2 weeks, and he came and presented at the event. And my point is, be available, right? Sometimes people come to us and they go, hey, I need help in this area. I don't really know that much, but if we don't make ourselves available, then we don't get a chance to do that.
Yeah.
Bill, thank you.
Very good point.
Bill.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. All right.
So there's a question, there's a question.
Yeah, I know, right?